Undeath. It's time to rise from the grave. This is, I believe, out today. It's the follow-up to their late 2020 album, which Undeath have become death metal's new buzz band. Like, Max Cavalera loves them. They were on that round table that upset Chris Barnes about the state of the modern death metal scene, which they had a very cool-headed, affable response to when they got fucking Chris Barnes on their case. Every now and then, a death metal band come along that every big outlet wants a big piece of. And as, you know, Tomb Mold have been put on sleep for the time being, and Blood Incantation always have, like, bigger, wider ambitions that they can talk to people about. Undeath are really filling that spot right now for, like, people quite en masse of, like, here's a fucking good death metal band. And, like, you can't move for this band when they do something on fucking, like, death metal Twitter. It's really in the vein of just, like, upfront riffing, demanding that you move to their riffs, New York style of death metal. It's not the most, like, outright evil or whatever thing that you will hear, but it is some of the most death metal. And that, you know, suffocation, Cannibal Corpse inflection has served them really well so far. It's a knack for just catchy riffs and grooves, sweet spot of, like, meat-headed grooves and actual deftness and nuance in the songwriting. Alec, did you hear Undeath's previous album?
Yeah, I checked it out because I saw the image of the guy getting decapitated in a landscape that looked like Rayman for PlayStation 1. So I was
really
like,
strange cover, that.
Yeah, I was like, that looks like my kind of thing. But yeah, it's it's just good. It's fun. It's good, clean fun. It's certainly not clean.
It's good,
but
it's good fun though. Yeah,
it's just fun death metal. It's got, like, memorable bits in it. It's well dirty. It's kind of like, it doesn't stick around too long to get boring. It's a thing that can be done badly or just quite dull, but I think they do it really well.
Well, there's also, you know, a sense of humour in the titles alone. Just
the album title, like, set me up for that. I was like, okay, this band have a sense of humour.
The ellipsis on the dot here, yeah, which I was jabbing at before, but even on the first album, like, slight quirks of wording that made for, like, what? Like, lesions of a different kind is what that first album was called. It starts with a song called Suitably Hacked to Death, and the fact that it's suitably made that song way more funny and memorable than if it was just hacked to death. They are really one of those, like, love for death metal palpable in the music bands, but also the package with the album artwork, like, built for fucking merch bundles with wall flags and all that classic shit. They do logo charms for your Crocs, if that's how you style yourself.
They love their Crocs, don't they?
It's that kind of death metal personality. On this, the production is it's a bit louder and wider in terms of presence. So when that stomp opens Fiends for Corpses, like, guitar tone, it's pretty fucking horrible on this. Like, when they just let the two guitars chug for a moment on their own in Defiled Again, like that kind of Scourge of Iron type vibe, it's absolutely stinking in a good way.
Defiled Again? Yeah.
Like,
you know, Fiend for Corpses. When that opens, like, Fiend for Corpses, I need that tattooed as, like, a tramp stamp. But the solo really caught my ear because it's the only thing that doesn't sound like complete shit in that song. I love it. Like, I love just how just thick and, like, disgusting everything sounds.
Like, the riffs, there is some, like, technicality in the riffing on that song, but it's so just, like, densely squashed together that you can't make any of it out because it's just, like, suffocating you under the weight of it. 7 minutes. That is a really fun opener. I had, like, that kind of set me up for this album with the whole, like, DEAD bit, like, where they're, like, spinning out. And, like, lyrically, this album is daft as hell. That, like, just singing about, like, defiling corpses and all that sort of stuff.
Human
like,
chandelier.
The peak of it is head splattered in 7 ways. Like, that is absolutely just the funniest, like, nonsense, like, on this album.
Yeah.
There were 7 ways, Jeremy. 7 ways? That's insane.
Like, how many different ways can you splatter a head? 7, apparently.
Well, yeah, on the kind of, like rotted sound of the album. I think, like, we reviewed, like, Cerebral Rot album last year, which really, like, that is, like, you are immersing yourself into a fucking bath of shit, and it's fucking beautiful for that. Undeath, like, it's an old school death metal sound, but it is also, it's kind of big and kind of relatable. They've got, like, the rotted, putrid bog of Sanguisuga Bog, but you don't feel quite so stupid for enjoying it because it's really well put together songwriting. They've got the New York degrading, wash yourself in a bath of filth mortician touch that all of these bands use now, but with the actual playing touch of Cannibal Corpse. And with so many bands have done, Morbid Angel and Immolation and Incantation, it's quite fun to get a band whose clear progenitor is really old school Cannibal Corpse with a more husky vocalist. If you like that old school Cannibal shit and that just kind of like fun, like, groovy, catchy riffing in that kind of guise, this is the band who are doing it.
Yeah, no, a lot of it did remind me of like kind of like Barnes era Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
And then you do get bits where it's like on Funeral Within, there's a bit where it's almost like a cheeky wink to something like Mortician, or just something like over the top and silly, where there's a bit where the bass just sounds like it's going like with his lip. Like it's just like 2 seconds, but it's just stuff like that. It doesn't like kind of overwhelm you, and the whole album isn't that, but there's enough like little references to it, not to be like jokes or anything, but to be like nods to things like that. Yeah,
like Sam, this is a band who pride themselves in doing straight as it comes death metal, but prioritizing as much as they can fun tunes in that framework. And you are the one of us least likely to love something as directly putrid as this. Good achievement of goal by the sounds of it.
No, totally. It really gets the balance of being disgusting and grotty and heavy, but Rise from the Grave almost just like this kind of like propulsive rock sort of thing going on at times.
Carcass as well. That was the first single from this.
Yeah,
and it
totally.
was so classic Carcass with those like super ear-catching guitar leads, but with the gorgeous brutality of it still, of just like fucking wrecking ball swings. That was like, oh shit, all right, I could be down with you doing some of this time.
Yeah, like that. They mix things up with like touches of that, and
even the multi-layered vocal part of how many screams go into "It's time to rise from the grave."
Yeah,
bone rot. Great.
They never get too caught up in trying to be as like brutal as possible. Again, it is just really like we want to write fun, playful, but like disgustingly heavy death metal songs. And we're going to be funny and have a sense of humour without it being kind of like too cheesy and silly. It's playful in that way. It's just a good time, like death metal record. I had a really fun time with this.
Yeah, considering it is a one-note standard death metal vocal performance, he too feels like he's trying to work within like the genre conventions he has to try and find the catchy moments where he can. Where in Head Splattered in 7 Ways, that tell me your truth comes out really, really like legibly and audibly. It's quite the moment, and it feels like they're taking on when Suffocation do genuinely quite catchy anthemic tunes like Entrails of You. That's the kind of thing that Undeath are aspiring to, and similarly they are writing those kind of songs around like ideas like A Human Chandelier.
What a title, like.
I think there are more like hooks and memorable, like especially vocal bits, than you would expect on something like this, and even on like Human Chandelier, which I just want to talk about again because Human Chandelier. But those like knackered sounding leads at like about like 50 seconds in, they're really fun, and they're just like dancing around with like the bass popping off next to them, like. Yeah, and again, like even with that song, there's just those little tricks, like with the the like, oh, let's let the bass go do 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 for a second before we just go in with a fucking massive riff, and you can see it coming like a mile off, but it doesn't matter because it's excellent.
Yeah, the kind of like mid-tempo, have a boogie groove that they do on Necrobionics was like the bread and butter of the first album. They're still hit a good quality. The building blocks here, they are tried and tested, but they are quite good arrangers of like structuring songs to be. The turnover of riffs is a lot of fun. Make these things as impactful as we can do. There's a fucking triangle or something in Bone Rot that just makes a particular riff stand out more. And I'm incapable of like not vibing with all of the cannibalisms. Like Staring Through the Eyes of the Dead style opening riff. The extreme pace turns into thrash tempo, but with like dexterous, like bubbling low end. Enhancing the Dead could be from a late 90s Corpse Grinder record like Gallery of Suicide or something. The gurgle of it is so similar, and that's just like a happy place for me.
Enhanced Dead has that like sludgy riff about 3 minutes in as well, where it just gets so stupidly heavy, and it's where they can just like bring in moments like that. They're just gonna go, oh yeah, that'll stick with me, like.
Yeah, and that the circle pit low end riff of Funeral Within is a riff I have loved 100 times over, and I love it here too. And the little bass pop and stuff, it's basically a fucking bone breaker breakdown in the middle there for you, Sam. Like, there's a kind of deftful obnoxiousness in mosh parts and stuff, where it feels like an old school death metal band translating to fans of, like, you know, they're on tour with the Acacia Strain and stuff like that, in a kind of a similar way to like bands like Frozen Soul and stuff have that kind of crossover with a bit more dexterity.
Yeah, I think this is it. This is the sort of death metal band I could see going out with more hardcore influenced bands because of that kind of like approach, some of the riffs and the attitude of it. But it is just straight up like crushing death metal.
Will say though, Trample Headstones, finish the fucking song. Come on. I don't know. Fade out. I think when I'm having such a good time, it gets my goat.
Do you reckon if Immutable had ended on a fade out, you would have called it a fucking flop for them?
Yeah, I would have been like, oh man, this fucking sellouts.
Yeah, to end on another pointless instrumental.
They're a good band, Undeath. Like, I think they're a bit less like, when people are like, this is the greatest death metal band around, like, they're a bit less either mind expanding or uniquely devastating as like the proper scene elite for me, but like they're absolute crowd pleasers. Like, they are built for just death metal fans to appreciate. I
mean, that is it. Is the crowd pleaser thing is exactly right. I think if you're into death metal in any way, I can't see how you couldn't just have fun with this record and just be left smiling. It's
that base uniting love of the genre that we all have deep inside, beating inside the heart of this band, and for a band that formed in 2019. They are doing incredibly well for themselves, both in the actual like reach of their band, which, like I said, it feels like they've been anointed, but also just the ability of their craft. It feels like they've got a really good work ethic. They've got a really strong idea of what their songwriting, like what they want their songs to be like. Clear ideas of like, this is the style of death metal that we play. It's not super unique or reinventing the wheel, but we know exactly how we want to construct our songs and try to make that style as, like, you know, catchy and fun as we can make it.
Yeah, it's music that is begging to be played live. Like, I want to see this.
Yeah, they've become, I think, good buds with the Black Dahlia Murder through touring with them, and that kind of like playful riff intensity. If fans of that band are looking to delve into something that's more like underground in sound and less razor polished than Black Dahlia Murder, but still has like the same turnover and riffs and stuff and spirit of songwriting, it's time ... to Ride from the Grave by Undeath is a record that you should be checking out.